Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show where we take that deep, unfiltered look at source material, research, and analysis to distill the core knowledge you need.
And we always try to find those surprising insights that, genuinely shift your perspective.
Today we are strapping in for a very special trip.
A deep dive into the wizarding, specifically analyzing pivotal moments where the single, seemingly minor choice could have dramatically altered the entire timeline of the warg.
Yeah, and the source material for this is it's rich with theoretical analysis. It really digs into the mechanics of destiny, the Deathly Hallows, and just how fragile these outcomes really are.
It's a house of cards in some ways.
Our mission today is isolating those incredibly fragile hinges of history. What happens if a reluctant villain follows orders? Or, what if an act of kindness is reversed?
And this exploration, it really reveals some fascinating nuggets about concepts we kind of take for granted. Things like the precise nature of the Deathly Hallows allegiance, which is a lot more complicated than you'd think.
Right, and the surprising instability of the timeline we all know. But I think the biggest one, for me, is that persistent philosophical question in all the lore.
Is prophecy truly unavoidable?
Exactly. Or is it just a powerful, self-fulfilling mechanism?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the sources we analyze, they consistently highlight this idea of redundancy built into fate.
A backup plan.
A backup plan, yeah. Think about the prophecy regarding the Chosen One. It had two potential candidates, Harry Potter and Neville Longbottom.
And our analysis suggests this multiplicity isn't an accident. It's there to ensure fulfillment.
Precisely. If one candidate is removed from the board, the other just steps in. Destiny has a substitute ready to go.
And we see the same principle with the Dark Lord's return, the prophecy about the servant returning. What was it? The servant has been changed these 12 years.
It has to be fulfilled. So if the expected servant, Peter Pettigrew, is removed from the equation for some reason,
then another servant, Barty Crouch Jr., is perfectly positioned to step right into that role.
It's like destiny in this world always carries a highly skilled backup.
It creates a foundational tension for our dive today, doesn't it? If the macro events are destined to happen, how much do the micro choices of individuals actually matter?
And we're going to find out that those micro choices often determine who survives and how the war is ultimately won, all in the details.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think a great place to start is with a character whose final actions or inactions had just astronomical implications. Draco Malfoy.
Mm-hmm.
He always presented as this spoiled bully, but by year 6, he was carrying a burden that was absolutely designed to crush him. So Draco Malfoy's arc in Half-Blood Prince is one of the most critical pivots in the entire conflict, right?
Oh, absolutely. But to really understand his failure or his success, depending on how you look at it, we have to look beyond Dumbledore's planned demise and focus on Voldemort's true motivation.
Which, as the sources point out, wasn't actually Dumbledore's death. That was secondary.
Exact. The task itself, the mission to kill Dumbledore, it was designed primarily as a cruel and drawn-out punishment.
For Lucius Malfoy.
For Lucius Malfoy's failure at the Ministry of Magic. Voldemort essentially handed Draco this very long psychological death sentence for the entire Malfoy.
He wanted him to fail.
He wanted Draco to suffer the impossibility of the task, knowing he would fail, and that failure would justify the subsequent execution or torture of his whole family. It's incredibly cruel.
It is heavy. So it sets Draco up to choose between impossible mission success, which would shatter his soul, or failure, which would doom his parents.
And this burden is what forces him away from the cocoon of his upbringing. I mean, he had spent his entire life relying solely on his family's established wealth, their power, their political sway.
He never had to prove himself.
Never. Not as an individual wizard. And now suddenly he has to rely solely on his own wit, his own skill, and his own nerve.
And this brings him to that crucial moral fork in the road.
It does. And his reluctance, his ultimate refusal to become a killer, that's what ends up saving his soul.
But that same moral hesitation also led to a massive, just a baffling strategic oversight, according to the analysis we reviewed.
Oh, a huge one.
An oversight that, if he just corrected it, could have accidentally made him the single most powerful wizard on Earth.
The Master of Death.
Yeah.
The sources are, they're obsessed with the invisibility cloak incident on the Hogwarts, beginning of year 6.
Right. Harry's spying on Draco. He's cloaked, but Draco spots a swinging shoe or something.
Yep. He petrifies Harry, breaks his nose for good measure, and then just covers him up with his own cloak. And then he walks away.
He knows the cloak is there. He knows Harry uses it all the time, and he just leaves it.
He leaves it.
Why is that such a critical failing? I mean, in the moment, Draco's focused on killing Dumbledore, not on stealing school supplies.
Because the cloak is a super useful tool for precisely the mission he was assigned.
Infiltration and assassination.
Exactly. He was tasked with sneaking cursed items like the poisoned mead or that cursed opal necklace into Hogwarts, and he was hoping some intermediary would deliver them to Dumbledore.
And the cloak would have eliminated the need for intermediaries altogether. It's so obvious when you put it like that.
Absolute. Think of the efficiency. Had Draco stolen the cloak, he could have infiltrated Dumbledore's office direct. He could have planted the cursed items without ever relying on, unreliable pawns like Katie Bell or the unwitting Slughorn.
So this single act of theft would have dramatically simplified his life and probably increased his odds of mission success, even if he still couldn't go through with the actual killing at the end.
It would have changed everything, but the real kicker here is the connection to the Deathly Hallows.
Right. Even if Draco just saw it as a powerful invisibility cloak, stealing it might have granted him temporary mastery, and that has deep implications for the Elder.
Precisely. The sources dive deep into the nuance of Hallow allegiance. Harry had been using the cloak in a rather petty way that night. It wasn't for serious self-preservation.
Just spying.
He was spying. And Dumbledore later suggests that the cloak wasn't working in its true power when Harry was using it to infiltrate and spy. Because Harry was using it for surveillance and he got caught, its allegiance might have been momentarily weak.
So Draco taking physical possession of it in that moment, even without understanding its legacy.
It could have constituted a transfer of allegiance. It could have granted Draco temporary mastery of the cloak.
Okay, so let's play this out fully in the theoretical. Master of Death Malfoy.
Wild ride.
We know that later that year, on the tower, Draco still disarms Dumbledore. Even though Snape casts the final killing curse, the Avada Kedavra Draco secured the allegiance of the Elder Wand through that disarming spell.
That part is confirmed lore.
Yep, so that's one Hallow.
That's one Hallow's allegiance secured. The Elder Wand. Now we look for the second and third.
And the sources point out that the ring Horcrux,
which is the Resurrection Stone,
is sitting right there in Dumbledore's office. Dumbledore had worn it. It was cursed, but it was still on his desk. Cracked, but recognizable as a very mysterious ring.
You can just picture it.
Wait, so you're suggesting a cloak to Draco, while he's planting a cursed item, sees this strange, powerful ring on the desk of a wizard he's trying to kill, and he just, pockets it?
I think it's highly plausible given his, let's call them magpie tendencies. Draco is a collector of powerful, dark artifacts. He's snooping around Dumbledore's office looking for opportunity. Why wouldn't he pocket a mysterious, powerful-looking artifact lying on the desk?
So he secures his possession of two Hallow, the cloak, by disarming Harry on the train.
And the stone, just by theft.
And you combine that with the Elder Wand allegiance he gets later,
and
Draco Malfoy is now completely unknowingly the Master of Death.
Terrifying.
That is truly terrifying. So how does it impact the Deathly Hallows period? Does he just become the new Dark Lord?
Unlikely, because his underlying moral failure, his inability to kill Dumbledore, it remains. His soul hasn't been fractured. But the external circumstances, they change entirely. Voldemort still expects the Malfoys to fail him further. Maybe Dumbledore's death didn't come fast enough, or because of the chaos at Malfoy Manor later on.
So Lucius is still in trouble.
Lucius is almost certainly killed by Voldemort for their family's continued failures.
And Narcissa, seeing her husband murdered and realizing her son is next, now she teams up with Draco.
Precise. Narcissa, still seeking refuge and salvation for her son, and Draco, now wholly turned against the Dark Lord, could use the invisibility cloak for its purpose.
Protection. Self-preservation.
Exactly. They could use it to escape undetected. The Order of the Phoenix, having successfully hidden Harry, would certainly hide the Malfoys, especially given that Andromeda, Narcissa's sister, was already aiding them.
So we fast forward to the final confrontation in the forest. But instead of Harry walking to his death, it's Draco, the Master of Death, who potentially faces Voldemort.
Or maybe, more likely, Draco simply reveals himself to Harry and the Order. But let's stick to the high drama for a second. Imagine Draco, seeking atonement, confronts Voldemort, who is using the Elder Wand to him.
Okay, this is the moment of destiny. What happened?
The Elder Wand would refuse to harm its true master, Draco.
Of course.
So even if Draco just casts a simple Stupefy or Expelliarmus, the killing curse that Voldemort attempts would backfire catastrophic, just as it did when Harry was...
Voldemort loses his body. He's reduced to a spirit vapor
once more. And crucially, he wouldn't die immediately because the remaining Horcruxes still anchor him to life. You've still got the cup, the diadem, Nagini, and Harry.
So Draco doesn't finish the job, but he makes Harry's path to victory significantly easier by neutralizing Voldemort's body and turning the Elder Wand against its temporary wielder.
And this is what allows for Draco's ultimate path to atonement. Since he possesses the Hallow, he could willingly return the invisibility cloak to Harry, symbolically transferring the true mastery back to its rightful owner. He could also hand over the Elder Wand, ensuring Harry becomes its master.
But the Resurrection Stone is the most potent symbol here, isn't it? Especially if Lucius has been killed.
Absolutely. The sources speculate that Draco could use the stone just once to summon instantly killed father.
Wow.
And that interaction, Draco facing the consequence of his choices and achieving a final, difficult moment of emotional closure, would solidify his complete rejection of the dark arts. Then he hands the stone.
And that sequence fulfills the prophecy's need for the Hallows to be united under Harry, even if it's indirect. It results in this startling, deeply complex redemption arc, all predicated on the impulsive decision to pocket a mysterious ring and steal a magical cloak.
Incredible.
From the accidental master of death, let's pivot to the man whose escape was arguably the most crucial pivot point in ensuring Voldemort's return to power.
Peter Pettigrew.
Peter Pettigrew. The entire timeline hinges on his escape at the end of Prisoner of Azkaban.
That moment, as you said, is an immense pivot. If Peter doesn't escape that night, he never goes to find Voldemort in Albania, never nurses him back to health, and Voldemort just remains.
And just as importantly, Sirius Black is immediately cleared. He's set free.
And Harry finally gets to live with his godfather. It's the happy, stable life we all wanted.
Yeah, but let's look at the what if, where Crookshanks actually succeeds in his year-long mission to kill Wormtail.
A cat gets the rat.
The cat gets the rat. If Crookshanks successfully killed Scabbers in the dormitory, what happens next, mechanically speaking?
The sources are quite clear on Animagus death. Severe trauma or death causes the Animagus to revert to their human form.
We see evidence of this later on, right?
Yeah, we do. Bellatrix expects a fox she killed to transform, and when Sirius is injured near the lake, he transforms back to his human shape. So if Crookshanks manages to break Scabbers' neck in the dormitory,
the body would revert.
It would revert to the human form of a dead man, Peter Pettigrew.
So suddenly, the Gryffindor common room contains the body of a dead, middle-aged wizard. The consequences of that are immediate and explosive.
Yeah. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and then the subsequent ministry investigation, they would easily connect the dots. The missing finger on Peter's hand matches Scabbers' missing toe.
And that missing finger also matches the single piece of evidence found when Sirius was originally framed.
It's an open and shut case. Sirius is instantly exonerated, the Dementors are called off, and Harry has a normal end to the year.
But wait, now we run squarely into the unavoidable prophecy problem we mentioned earlier. Trelawney's premonition has to be fulfilled. The servant has been changed these 12 years. The servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. If Peter is dead, who is the servant?
Enter Barty Crouch Jr. The prophecy is intentionally ambiguous enough to apply to multiple candidates.
He's been in prison for 12 years.
Yeah, exact. Barty Jr. had been imprisoned inside his own mind via the Imperious Curse for exactly 12 years, changed and hidden for 12 years. News of a fellow prominent Death Eater's public death.
Peter Pettigrew, who was long thought dead but was found in a child's bed,
would be the extra psychological edge Barty needs to finally break free of the curse.
So Barty Jr., still fanatically loyal to the Dark Lord, escapes his father's house and immediately finds Voldemort in Albania.
The war still comes.
Right. And Barty is perfectly positioned to take over for Peter and rig the Triwizard Tournament as Mad-Eye Moody. The Dark Lord's return is imminent, regardless of whether Peter lived or died.
Exactly. The universe simply swaps out the weaker, reluctant servant for a more fanatical and effective. Peter's death means Sirius is free, but the war is still coming, which means Harry is still the chosen.
And Dumbledore has to intervene in Harry's sudden happiness.
That's the tragic part.
Wait, why would Dumbledore have to intervene? Sirius is cleared. Why can't Harry just move in permanently with his godfather? This sounds like Dumbledore just being cruel, unnecessarily breaking Harry's heart.
Well, this brings us to the crucial mechanics of the Bond of Blood Charm, and why Dumbledore is so adamant about Harry returning to the Dursleys every year.
Okay.
The protection placed on Harry relies entirely on the acceptance and presence of his mother's blood relic, Petunia. This charm is only active as long as Harry can still call Privet Drive home.
So it's not just about the physical place, it's about the emotional anchor.
It's the acceptance of the blood relative. As long as Harry returns once a year, Petunia accepts him into the home, even grudgingly, and the magic holds.
But if Harry were to move in permanently with Sirius at Grimmauld Place,
he would begin to think of that location as home. And the charm, which is designed around Petunia's acceptance, would likely break down or fail entirely, leaving him vulnerable to Voldemort's now.
So Dumbledore, knowing Voldemort's return is inevitable via Barty Jr., would have to insist Harry returns to the Dursleys yearly anyway, despite Sirius's freedom.
It's awful, but...
So Harry gets Sirius in the summers, but that stable family life is still curtailed by destiny and defensive magic. That truly is a bitter pill of unavoidable fate.
It emphasizes that safety outweighs Dumbledore's calc every time.
Okay, let's consider an even earlier pivot, one that would have avoided Voldemort's initial downfall entirely. What if James and Lily had stuck to the original plan, and Sirius had been the secret keeper of Daly's?
Sirius states it so clearly. He was ready to die for his friend. He says, I would have died rather than betray my...
Yeah.
The switch to Peter was a desperate measure of misdirection. They thought Peter was too obvious a target spect.
So if Sirius was the secret keeper, he wouldn't have betrayed. The Potters would survive, and Harry would grow up with his parents, safe for
a time. But the massive downside is that Voldemort never suffers his initial downfall. The First Wizarding War, which was already escalating into a terrible conflict, would simply continue unabated.
And Voldemort would be relentless. He knows the Potters are hidden by the Fidelius charm, which means someone is the secret keeper.
And the sources emphasize that Voldemort and his Death Eaters would capture, torture, and ultimately kill Sirius and Remus Lupin, desperate for information or just for revenge.
And if the secret keeper dies, what happens?
That's a deadly mechanic of the charm. If the secret keeper dies, the secret passes all living know.
So if Sirius is tortured and killed,
The secret instantly passes to James, Lily, Dumbledore, and maybe this would still endanger the Potter, leading to their eventual exposure and likely death, just delayed by a few years of ongoing warfare.
and if somehow Voldemort still can't find Harry, prophecy still has to fulfill itself.
Right back to Neville. The Chosen One prophecy applied to Harry or Neville Longbottom. Since Voldemort can't find Harry and is frustrated by the Fidelius charm, he would eventually realize the dual candidacy and turn his attention to Neville.
Neville was also born at the end of July, and his parents, Frank and Alice, had defied Voldemort 3 times.
The criteria fit. So Voldemort hunts down Neville.
He unsuccessfully attacks Neville, falls from power, and Neville becomes the Chosen One, marked by the resulting rebound curve.
And Frank and Alice Longbottom, however, would have suffered the exact fate of being tortured into insanity just as they did in the actual time, except this time their sacrifice directly linked to the prophet.
And Harry, meanwhile, would likely watch his parents die defending the secret years later. Or maybe they just live out the war in hiding, always looking over their shoulder.
The war ends, but with a different boy wearing the scar. The immense suffering of the Longbottoms remains constant. It shows the incredible, almost indifferent inevitability of destiny.
The prophecy must be fulfilled.
It always finds a way, sacrificing the happiness and lives of those around the focal point of its end.
Okay, let's go back to Peter's escape and look at one last small, random choice that triggered everything. The Weasleys' lottery win.
This is a textbook example of a seemingly irrelevant detail triggering a monumental event.
700 galleons.
700 galleons from the Daily Prophet Grand Prize Galleon Draw. It allows them to take a month-long trip to Egypt.
And while there, a photograph is taken for the prophet, showing Ron with scabbers on his shoulder.
Sirius sees this picture, recognizes Peter, and this is what prompts his escape from Azkaban.
So if the Weasleys never won, they never go to Egypt, the picture's never taken, Sirius never escaped, and there are no Dementors at Hogwarts. Peter Pettigrew remains scabbers, and Harry never gets Patronus lessons. That sounds like a big change, doesn't it?
It seems like a massive change, but the analysis suggests the outcome is only delayed by a few months. The core relationships remain. The Weasleys would still invite Harry to stay for the summer. And because Fred and George, especially, are chaotic innovators who love to cause trouble.
Harry is very likely to acquire the Marauders map early in his time at the Burrow.
Or at Hogwarts that year.
Yeah.
And as soon as Harry, or even more crucially, Lupin, sees the name Peter Pettigrew sleeping in Ron's bed on that map,
The jig is up.
the secret is revealed. Sirius would still be exonerated, or, if the Ministry refuses to believe the map, Dumbledore and Lupin would break him out of Azkaban based on the evidence.
But Peter Pettigrew, facing imminent capture, would still catch wind of the discovery and escape, managing to rejoin Voldemort.
He'd still get away.
So the lottery win only sped up the timeline. It didn't fundamentally change the war's start.
Exactly. It confirms what we established earlier. Voldemort's return was simply inevitable, whether facilitated by the timely escape of Peter or the psychological break of Barty Crouch. The servant will break free. The random lottery win only served to accelerate the process by bringing Peter's identity to Sirius's attention a few months earlier than the Marauders map would have done naturally.
Death delivered by a photo op. The scale of these small chances is incredible. Moving on to another unlikely savior, let's talk about Dobby, the house elf whose actions in Chamber of Secrets seem purely chaotic, harmful, and, well, selfish.
The Dobby paradox. His interference seems calculated to make Harry miserable and keep him out of Hogwarts.
Yeah, he blocked Harry's mail, he ruined Uncle Vernon's crucial business deal with the Masons.
And he sent a rogue bludger after Harry during the Quidditch match, which resulted in Harry having his arm shattered.
And all of this was well-intentioned, right, to save Harry from the Chamber of Secrets, but the execution was completely disastrous.
It was. But the analysis suggests that if Dobby never interfered, the timeline would have collapsed very quickly, possibly resulting in Harry's death in year 2.
So in that scenario, Harry and Ron would make it through the barrier and board the Hogwarts Express normally.
The flying Ford Anglia is never stolen, never crashed into the Whomping Willow, and crucially,
Ron's wand is never broken.
Correct.
Let's focus on Ron's functional wand. That seems like a good thing, right? A working wand is better than a broken one.
It is the fatal flaw because of what happens later in the Chamber of Secrets. But let's start earlier. When Harry and Ron eventually follow the spiders to Aragog's hut, Aragog still plans to eat them and offers them up to his family as spider food. In the original timeline, what saves them?
The magical surprise arrival of the flying Ford Anglia, now running wild in the Forbidden Forest, which scoops them up and drives them away.
And without Dobby's chaotic interference leading to the car crash and the subsequent magical failure.
The car is parked safely at the Dursleys' house.
Right, so Harry and Ron are trapped at Aragog's lair. Even with Ron's functional wand, they are isolated and likely overwhelmed by hundreds of acromantula. They become spider food.
Grim. But let's assume somehow they managed to escape Aragog's den and still figured out the Chamber of Secrets. What happens next? This is where Ron's functional wand is critical.
Okay, so if they manage to descend into the chamber, they still need to go down with Lockhart to find Ginny.
And normally, Lockhart steals Ron's broken wand, attempts to erase their memories to steal the credit.
But the broken wand backfires spectacularly, erasing Lockhart's own memory instead, turning him into a harmless vegetable.
And in the non-Dobby timeline,
Ron's wand is fully functional. When Lockhart steals it and attempts the memory charm, he succeeds in erasing Harry and Ron's memories,
leaving them mindless, exactly like Lockhart himself, but still trapped in the Chamber of Secrets until someone else arrives, if they ever do.
And Ginny would likely have died from the drain of energy, and the basilisk might have broken free permanently.
So the conclusion is inescapable. Dobby's attempts to make Harry's life miserable, breaking his arm, almost getting him expelled, forcing him to steal a car, created a necessary chain of odd accidents that saved Harry's life later on.
The chaotic accident of the flying car and the fluke of the broken wand were essential shields against a much darker fate.
It's incredible that chaos and a broken arm were essential for survival. It makes you wonder how often our worst, most irritating obstacles are actually paving the way for a necessary outcome.
It's a powerful thematic counterpoint to the inevitable disgust.
Now, shifting focus to the original Dark Lord himself, Voldemort's origin. The ultimate question of nature versus nurture starts with Merriff Gaunt.
Merritt Bront represents the literary and philosophical foil to Lily Potter.
Absolutely.
Lily sacrificed herself out of profound true love for her son. Merritt, conversely, was so broken by her love that she would do nothing, including lift.
She conceived Tom Riddle Jr. under a love potion, and then chose to die after Tom Riddle Sr. abandoned her rather than raise her son.
And that lack of love, right at the foundational moment of his life, solidified Voldemort's psychological inability to love or feel remorse.
So what if Merritt had never released Tom Sr. from the spell? What if she opted to raise young Tom Jr. in that artificial family unit?
Even if she kept him enchanted, Merritt was deeply incapable of giving or receiving real love. Young Tom Jr. would still grow up deeply loveless artificial.
And he'd realize, as soon as he discovered his magical power, that his life was built on a lie when he inevitably lifts the spell.
So Voldemort's trajectory towards darkness is hard to shift. He was conceived without true love and raised in an environment utterly devoid of genuine affection. The outcome for his personality is largely the same, a powerful wizard who cannot feel empathy.
But the analysis points to a tragedy based on his lineage that occurs much earlier than his teenage years, one that connects back to the Hallows. Tom Jr. was obsessed with his ancestry, tracing his gaunt line back to the Peverils, the original owners of the Deathly Hallows.
This is the critical moment. If Tom Jr. is successfully investigating his ancestry, he traces the Peveril lineage through the Gaunt. This lineage leads him straight to the current owner's ability, the Potter.
And the current owner, when Tom Riddle Jr. is a powerful teenager, is Harry's grandfather, Flamon Potter.
Yeah.
The inventor of Sleek Easy's hair potion.
That's the one. So, teenage Tom Riddle, obsessed with powerful artifact, tracks down Flamont Potter.
And he kills him to steal the invisibility cloak. And by doing so, he eliminates Harry Potter from the timeline before he's even born.
The sources call this the Terminator scenario for good reason, a temporal hit that removes the future threat. Harry is erased, never born, and the prophecy falls entirely to Neville Longbottom, who becomes the sole chosen one candidate.
It confirms that the greatest threat to Harry's existence wasn't the Dark Lord of the future, but the Dark Lord of the past, strategically eliminating his lineage and stealing the Hallow.
It also demonstrates Voldemort's single-minded focus on power. He could have just waited for Flamont to die naturally, but his impatience and lust for the Hallow would drive him to immediate violence.
Moving forward to the Triwizard Tournament, let's explore a key moment of goodness that was nearly undone, Cedric Diggory's choice to share the cup with Harry.
A huge moment.
What if Cedric's innate goodness failed just for a moment, and he grabbed the cup alone?
If Cedric, driven by competition or adrenaline, touches the cup alone, he portkeys instantly to the graveyard without Harry.
And Voldemort is immediately disappointed. His grand plan hinged on Harry being there.
But Voldemort is highly adaptable. He still needs to return to a full body.
Right.
So he would proceed with the ritual. He would take Cedric's blood, forcibly, of course, but Cedric's blood is not essential like Harry's.
Because of Lily's protection.
Exactly. Once reborn, Voldemort would kill Cedric. The Source's famous line, "kill the spare," applies here perfect. But then, rather than revealing himself to the world, Voldemort utilizes a strategic act. Cedric.
Volda-Cedric. Terrifying thought. How does that help?
Voldemort would use Polyjuice Potion to return to Hogwarts disguised as Cedric. It's a flawless strategy. He maintains perfect cover. He is the heroic champion who returns, shaken but alive, and Dumbledore would be so preoccupied with the situation, he might not immediately recognize the deception.
And with that disguise, Voldemort achieves his secondary goal instantly, eliminating his greatest magical threat.
Exactly. Volda-Cedric would use the champion's triumphant or tragic arrival as a massive distraction. He'd get incredibly close to Dumbledore quick, maybe under the pretense of needing medical aid or debriefing, and assassinate him.
Eliminating his greatest magical threat right away. And Voldemort would then claim mastery of the Elder Wand through them.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Harry eventually exits the maze, having been stunned or confused, only to be confronted by a champion who looks like Cedric but is actually Voldemort.
And this is where the mechanics of magic fail Harry.
Completely. If Voldemort, as Cedric, attacks Harry, there would be no priori incantatem effect.
Because the twin wand cores, Harry's and Voldemort, hadn't yet connected in a duel in the graveyard.
So there's no echo, no ghost parents, no protective shield.
Harry simply dies.
He just died. And the Ministry of Magic is perfectly primed for denial. Fudge would seize on Cedric's successful return and Dumbledore's sudden, mysterious demise, claiming the tournament was too much for the champion, or maybe blaming an internal...
And knowledge of Voldemort's return would be successfully suppressed, allowing Voldemort to rise unopposed from within Hogwarts itself.
All because of one moment of self.
Cedric's moment of goodness, his impulsive choice to share the victory, literally saved the world from immediate conquest. The smallest acts of character are consistently shown to have the largest protective effects.
It's a powerful lesson in group.
Okay, let's circle back to Draco and explore the scenario where he actually chooses violence. We discussed his moral reluctance, but what if he had killed Dumbledore on the tower? What if he solidified his soul fracture and allegiance to the dark art?
If Draco kills Dumbledore, he restores the Malfoy name and takes Snape's position as Voldemort's powerful, if unstable, number 2.
Right.
This choice fractures his soul, meaning he has successfully committed to the dark art. He becomes power-hungry, convinced he is special and different because he succeeded where others failed. And this change causes a cascade of consequences in Deathly Hallows.
Specifically, the Battle of the Seven Potters, where the Order attempts to move Harry from Privet Drive.
In the original timeline, Snape had to intervene secretly to protect the real Harry, but now, the newly power-hungry Draco is an active, enthusiastic participant who doesn't...
And Draco, who had long-standing personal beef with Hagrid, he targets the enormous half-giant instead of trying to find Harry.
Exactly. So Snape's attention is divided between the chaos and trying to save the Order member can. And because of Draco's enthusiastic participation, Snape cannot save Lupin from a different Death Eater's curse.
So Lupin done, a major loss for the Order. But what about George Weasley?
George Weasley keeps both ears. In the original timeline, George lost his ear due to Snape's intended protective curse missing its mark. Since Snape is focused elsewhere, dealing with Draco's chaotic interference and trying to track the real Harry, George's fate changes.
So Lupin is sacrificed, but the immediate family of the good guys suffers less injury.
And Harry, filled with rage at Dumbledore's killer, confronts Draco later on.
At the manor.
Yeah. And Harry hits Draco with a vicious Sectum Sempra during the manor skirmish, likely with even more ill intent than before. This gives Draco a significant permanent scar across his face. He gets the mark of power he always wanted, but not in the way he imagined.
He becomes the scarred Dark Horse, wearing the wounds of his enemy's hatred.
Now we fast forward to the final duel in the forest, where Draco, having usurped Snape's position, sets the stage for the ultimate confront, having mastered the Elder Wand by killing Dumbledore.
And this is the final brilliant twist.
It is. Draco, obsessed with proving his power, has acquired Harry's broken Holly Wand from Malfoy Manor. And using the unmatched power of the Elder Wand, which he mastered, he fixed Harry. He reveals this to Harry in the forest. A final moment of supreme arrogance.
Why does he fix Harry's wand? Is that a final act of complicated conscience?
No, it's pure arrogance. He fixed it so Harry could technically fulfill the prophecy against Voldemort, but only because Draco intends to be the one to defeat both of them.
Wow.
He asserts to Harry, "I fixed your wand. You served your purpose. I am the master of the Elder, and now I am going to kill you."
But because Draco made the mistake of revealing his mastery and initiating the duel, Harry counters with his signature, non-lethal move.
Expelliarmus.
Expelliarmus.
Exactly. Harry disarms Draco, who is holding the Elder Wand. Because disarming is the established method of allegiance transfer, Harry gains mastery of the Elder Wand in that final moment, just before his final confrontation.
So the outcome remains the same. Harry wins the war, but the mechanics of the victory, the master transfer, is entirely dictated by Draco's power-hungry choices and his desperate narcissistic need to prove his superiority over everyone.
It's a stunning example of how pivotal, character-driven choices, whether reluctant or arrogant, feed into the final victory. The character arc sets the stage for the technical resolution.
That brings us to the end of our dive into these pivotal moments, where we've seen destiny, chaos, and character flaws intertwine. So what does this all mean for you, for the listener?
Well, I think we have 3 key takeaways that really redefine how we view the narrative structure of this world.
Okay.
First, prophecy and destiny are hard to avoid. Whether it's Voldemort's return relying on a highly skilled backup servant like Barty Crouch Jr., or the Chosen One mantle simply passing to Neville Longbottom if Harry is removed from the timeline.
The crucial overarching events of the war seem destined to occur, regardless of the individual players.
The universe finds a way. It just does.
Second, final victory rests on pivotal, small choices. So while destiny sets the inescapable state, the ultimate victory hinges on these seemingly insignificant character decisions.
Right. Draco's split-second decision not to steal the cloak, Cedric's act of fairness, even Dobby's chaotic attempts to help.
These micro-decisions create the necessary conditions for Harry's survival and eventual success. Destiny creates the problem, character solves it.
And third, intent matters more than success. The intentions behind actions often have the most profound, unintended consequences. Dobby's disastrous attempts saved Harry's life. Merrip's self-abandonment sealed Voldemort's fate of being incapable.
And Cedric's conscious goodness prevented Voldemort from rising unopposed.
The ethical commitment is what protects the timeline, even when the immediate action fails.
So we've arrived at our final provocative thought for you to mull over. We know that Harry's survival from the very beginning relied entirely on sacrificial Magic Lily's original protection, which was based on her choosing death for him.
And Dumbledore, faced with the necessity of Harry's death to destroy the Horcrux inside him, meticulously engineered a scene where Harry...
And the sources point out that Dumbledore had a gleam of something like triumph in his eye as Harry accepts his fate in the forest. This suggests this wasn't just about destroying a Horcrux.
No, it was something.
So if Harry chooses death when he has the option to live, if he willingly walks into the forest knowing he will die solely to protect everyone else, what does that say about the final sacrifice? Could Dumbledore have been trying to engineer a new, even more potent wave of protective magic?
One cast not by a parent's involuntary act of defense, but by the Chosen One's own voluntary choice of self-sacrifice.
This choice of self-sacrifice, made knowingly, might have been Dumbledore's final and most brilliant magical invention, creating a permanent shield anchored by Harry's willing death, designed to protect the world permanently from the darkness Voldemort represents.
A question worth pondering. Was Dumbledore preparing Harry for the Horcrux destruction, or for the final ultimate spell of protection?
Something to ponder as you reread those final moments. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.